Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Wajaha and today I wanted to cover gas fees. Now what I wanted to do is basically just go over a few different networks, just kind of see what the state of gas fees are nowadays and just kind of see how things have changed. Are they expensive, are they cheap, and basically just cover a few different chains. So let's just jump straight to it. Let's get straight to it. I thought we'll just start with basically having a look at all the different chains and just seeing kind of how much the gas fees are if I were to do a swap on any of the native decentralized exchanges. And I thought we're going to start off with Ethereum, and of course if you're talking about Ethereum then you got to go no farther than Uniswap. And you can basically see here that an approximate swap nowadays on the Ethereum network is about $5. Of course this does change at times, especially when the network is more congested, but generally look, you're going to be paying around this $5 mark just for a simple swap here, and that is considerably cheaper than the peak of the bull market, where at times gas fees were multiple $100s for a transaction, when Ethereum at times was pretty unusable, to be fair. I think nowadays, yeah, $5 for a transaction, is that expensive? Probably still a little bit too expensive. I mean, Vitalik himself has said he wants to get transactions significantly lower. I can't remember the exact figure, but I'm sure he wants to get gas fees below 10 cents. And we're still quite away from that at the moment. You can see how it's fluctuating depending on kind of network activity. But yeah, generally you're going to be paying around $5 for a transaction on Ethereum. So yeah, that's kind of the most expensive place. So thankfully for that. But yeah, that's Ethereum. Gas fees still relatively expensive, but significantly cheaper than what they were before, and I think it does make Ethereum pretty usable, I would say. I mean, you're not going to be spamming multiple transactions when you've got gas fees at this price, but if you do want to enter a yield farm for maybe a significant amount of time, then I think this is reasonable. If you want to use Curve or kind of want to use an exchange for a swap, I think it's reasonable to pay $4 or $5 really. So let's just have a look and let's just swap to Arbitrum, because obviously that's the network that everyone's talking about nowadays. And again, if we were to do a very similar swap, you can see here that we're paying $1, and I think that's a lot more reasonable. If you actually use some of these different applications, you'll find that transaction fees are even less than that. You're paying 10 cents, 20 cents, and I think this is probably a little bit more expensive than usual, and that's probably because Arbitrum right now is pretty hot. Everyone's pretty much using it at the moment, and yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think paying up to $1 is not too bad. So you got $1, $1.50, $1.45. This is on my screen at the moment for a swap on Uniswap on the Arbitrum network. Again, I didn't think that's too bad actually. But so that's just to compare. You can see it's about 4 or 5 times cheaper than the Ethereum network. But if you go to other networks, you'll find that you'll get even cheaper gas fees. So what am I talking about here? Well, let's go to Trader Joe. Let's just change it to the Avax network. And again, if we're going to do a swap here, let's have a look. Let's see how much this costs. So this costs 0.052 AVAX, and if you take the price of AVAX, which is about $20 or so, give or take, well, that means you've really got a gas fee of about a fraction of a penny there. So AVAX, really cheap. You're talking pennies for your transaction. That's very good for the network. Again, at times during the bull market, Avalanche was quite expensive to use. At times your transactions were $10, $15 at the very peak, I remember. So it's good to see that it's come down. Obviously, I think most of that comes down to the fact that people aren't using DeFi as much as they were during the peak of the bull run. The number of users who are active in crypto has gone down from the peak of the bull run. Of course, I think that definitely plays a part. I guess activity on Avalanche is probably not at its peak either, but yeah, quite cheap gas fees, and it means you can spam as many transactions as you want on the Avalanche network, and you won't be looking at your bank account after. We'll move to Astroport, just looking at the Terra network. You can see here that it's just less than $1, about 90 cents. So that is something to be aware of. Yeah, it's reasonable. Not as cheap as Avalanche, but definitely cheaper than Ethereum, similar to Arbitrum. And then of course, let's have a look at the Binance Smart Chain. If we were to do, let's swap to the Binance Smart Chain. So if we were to do a swap here, how much is it going to cost? So 0.0008 BNB. So really we're talking pennies again. So very cheap on the Binance Smart Chain, to equivalent to Avalanche really. And lastly, I thought we'll just talk about Cardano on the we'll talk about ADA, sorry, on the Cardano blockchain. But just open it up here, you can see that generally transactions are around a similar mark, about 0.17, 0.2 ADA, which again equates to just a few pennies really, so quite cheap on the Cardano network. But to be honest, there isn't really much to be transacting on the Cardano network at the moment, so we'll have to wait for more applications and more kind of DeFi activity to really take consideration or take note of that, because activity on the Cardano network is not as high as you see on some of these other networks, and the number of swaps and things like that I think you see a lot more on these other networks. So yeah, basically Ethereum is the most expensive. Arbitrum is significantly cheaper than Ethereum, 4 or 5 times, but there are a number of other networks that are even cheaper than Arbitrum, in the form of Avalanche, in the form of Binance Smart Chain, and even Cardano as well. So yeah, you've got a number of other kind of networks as well. We've got Polygon and Solana, both of them are fractions of pennies as well. So I think generally the state of DeFi as a whole, there's lots of chains that you can go and interact with, try, experiment, especially now that we're in a bear market, and it won't cost you much at all. And now's the time to do so before things explode again, because they will do in the future. Now's the time to learn, now's the time to explore. So that's all I've got for you today, just a quick video. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back with another video soon.